Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrandt. I am joined by my co-host and colleague and friend of many years, Dan Rubenstein, seated to my left. Seated across the table, we have a special guest. Now, he was with us last summer. It was the breakout podcast sensation of the summer, at least as it relates to our show. Where
Song
we did
of the summer.
Emo and pop punk show. Bill Barnwell from ESPN.
Hope you guys are ready for a sophomore slump because I don't know what the magic that happened last year. I'm afraid, unfortunately,
That
maybe
was-
a one-time
okay.
thing.
That was one of the most downloaded shows we've done in like 10 years. Not messing here.
So,
Did you guys consider pivoting to strictly an emo pop punk format?
No, because one show is all I had in the clip.
that was everything Ty had.
I was doing my best to keep up.
So here's the good news is if a show last summer based around being young, sad, and lonely, really something that people identified with, have we got good news for you? Because this year's deep dive topic is sports video games from the 1990s.
From the 1990s. And I should add, we will be joined in like,
I don't know, soon, 15,
Cosmo
20.
Kramer,
Yeah.
Merv Griffin set-ish style by Ryan Nanni here.
What? I'm out of here. This is
In
terrible.
a little bit.
Yeah, we did not write that into Bill's contract.
Okay, fine.
So we came up with this idea. I was elated to finally have a topic that I could relate to.
And I think this might have been Bill's suggestion.
Might have been Bill's suggestion.
I don't think so, but I'm perfectly happy to take credit for it.
Yeah.
The topic of 90s sports video games. We need to go around the table here and talk about what kind of influence these games had on our lives.
Absolutely.
If we're gonna do a full deep show, Dan, video games, what influence did these 90s sports games have on your young adolescent life?
So enormous influence. Two younger brothers, bunch of friends who are all into sports. You know, this guy has Genesis, this guy has SNES, this guy has PlayStation 1, this guy has whatever. I don't know if I knew anybody that had a full arcade console in their house. That would have been dope. I was not friends with Macaulay Culkin
That's
growing
some
up.
real California stuff there.
Oh, it's very California.
Growing up in Queens, nobody had an arcade cabinet in their apartment.
But I went to a lot of malls and played arcade games.
Of course.
Obviously, the Valley is, a home to a number of big malls. So always had, I think my home arcade was called the Golden Nugget or something like that.
That's a casino.
It's a casino. It was, but it was called maybe there was a copyright issue, but it was something like that. So I played a lot of those games, and summer break, you go over to friends' houses. That's what you did. You played NBA Jam. You played NBA Live. You played FIFA, like the first FIFA. You played Madden, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Tecmo Super Bowl. All those games were just central to my growing up and my social life and socializing with friends. So it was huge. And I was born, specifically as it relates to 90s games, I was born in 1983. So I was 7 years old through 17. That's a pretty good age to have sports video games in your life.
Oh, yeah.
That math checks out.
Yeah.
I was born in 1984. So I was 6 to 16 when this all went down. I can say pretty comfortably that I wouldn't have the job I have today were it not for a pair of football video games, one of which was Super Tecmo Bowl, which taught me the rules of the game just during like a 2-day sick from school. I rented a game from the video game store situation. And then there was a series for the PC called the Front Page Sports Football Pro Series, which I played in leagues online. I learned X's and O's from that. Like I was creating plays and the play editor. I mean, I was doing all these things that helped form a framework and a baseline for what I would end up doing as a career in terms of trying to figure out what actually wins football games. Of course, doing it as a 12-year-old online is very different from doing it as an adult, but it was it was fundamental. I mean, there's things that I still use today that I learned 20 years ago, which is kind of weird to think about.
To clarify, sorry, Super Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl? So NES or SNES? So when I say Tecmo Super Bowl, I mean the original NES 8-bit A and B, that console.
What I remember happening is that my parents got me Tecmo Super Bowl, the NES version, like for my birthday, but then also got me a Super Nintendo. And didn't realize that one did not work
compatible,
with the other.
Okay.
So they had to buy me, in addition, Super Tecmo Bowl.
Yes.
I don't think they returned the first one, though. I remember feeling very guilty about it, even as a child.
So here's my related question. Dan has 2 younger brothers. Do you have any siblings?
I have a younger brother and a younger sister.
Did that contribute at all to how many games you were allowed to get? Because I am an only child, born in 1981. Apparently, I'm the old head.
I know your type. I had a bunch of only child friends, and they racked in the video game systems.
I was an only child.
Oh,
and
my
I had
God.
a cabinet, dog.
Yeah.
I believe
every
it.
cartridge you can imagine for NES. Never had a Super Nintendo.
Did you go Genesis?
I went Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from Genesis, I jumped to PS1.
Okay.
I had friends who had the other gaming consoles, which we'll get into, but
Right.
And obviously the PC games and the like. But did that at all kind of restrict how many games you were allowed to get?
It did, but I feel like a lot of the games that I was playing were rentals.
Yeah.
In terms of just having access to a wide variety of games. I lived a couple blocks from the from the rental place, and to me, I mean, unless it was a game I really love, which we'll get to, of course, the vast majority of games I was happy to play for 2 days obsessively, and then be like, okay, I'm good now. Let's play something else. Yeah. I was really a love 'em and leave 'em kind of video game connoisseur when I was a kid.
See, I was a focused guy, so I would try to master games. Like, so Tecmo Super Bowl, anybody that's listening to this and doesn't have a deeply emotional relationship with Tecmo Super Bowl, just stop listening. Like, it's not worth the next hour, whatever, hour and a half. It's not worth it because you're a fraud, and let's just get that out of the way.
Let's just get it
now.
out of the way. Yeah.
And also, we might not mention one of your favorite games, and that doesn't mean we hate it. That just means there are a lot of games, and nobody played all of them.
There are many options, but I'm with you. I could never do the whole rental thing,
really,
because the rental thing didn't give me enough time to master the game.
Right. No, I'd play out whole seasons. I would sim seasons and get to the playoffs.
Exactly.
I would try to win the Super Bowl with a bunch of different teams.
You would play a whole season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I had to do with Tecmo Super Bowl. I had to, I think, leave the game on because there was no saving.
Oh, yeah.
So I would go to school, come home, do homework because I wasn't allowed to play the game, and then
Did you
leave it on.
Did you have the wherewithal to worry about a possible fire hazard from doing so? Because I did, because it would get hot sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
It was on a cool surface, but yeah.
I wondered about that. Back to the original question, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would not be doing this show and feel good about this show if any of these games or any combination of these games didn't have a profound impact on our young lives.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was an only child, so I had my pick of the litter.
Still are.
Still am.
Yeah.
Had my pick of the litter when it came to getting sports video games. And because I didn't necessarily have a whole lot of like neighborhood kids to play around with.
Okay.
So video games were like
Deep
the thing
dive
for me.
Yeah.
These were this is where it was at for me. So all of these games that we're about to list, I probably had some exposure to them.
Wow.
And could talk a little bit about my obsessive compulsiveness as it relates each of them trying to beat the seasons and master the games and whatnot.
I like that we're finding out that Ty is basically Mr. Macintosh. He was the kid with every game. He was the blank check kid.
But the one thing he couldn't find was love.
Friends.
The
That's
lens.
cool. So you would oftentimes just play alone. You were not playing with friends. You were not playing with neighborhood kids.
No.
Would you play with your brother or sister, Bill?
Occasionally, but
Okay.
I would say I preferred to play alone. For
Okay.
sure.
You prefer to say I played with my youngest brother Alex a lot of the time, or I would go to my friend Andy's, who was an only child, had an SNES, had a ton of games, especially sports. So we're talking like in the 94 to 96 range, which is obviously the glory day of this time. And we would throw on some Boys to Men. We would throw on some Offspring.
Yeah.
We would throw on all, this Green Day, throw on Dookie and Boys to Men. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You like 2 pop punk bands and then Boys to Men.
Boys to Men. Whatever it is that we were listening to, and just like NBA Live 95 for like
Good
4
game.
hours.
Good game.
And like his mom would bring us Honey Nut Cheerios at midnight. Oh, God, was it great. It's been all downhill from there.
The other I think guardrails we need to put up here before we go any further.
It's going to get real weird.
I mentioned Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you Mario or Mario?
Because I grew up in New York, I'm Mario.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm a lone Mario. This feels weird.
I've been taking abuse.
Someone made the point to me recently, which makes me feel very insecure about it. What would you call Mario's arch nemesis?
Yeah, it's evil version.
Evil version of Mario.
It's Wario.
I still go Wario.
He goes Wario.
So am I a hypocrite?
I really hope when Ryan arrives, he says Mario, not Mario. I need to even out this madness.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I mentioned Mario Kart, and it is Mario Kart. Thank you very much.
God, this is not. This
what
is
are
abuse.
our guardrails for what constitutes a sports video game?
Oh, boy.
And what doesn't? Bill, you mentioned Road Rash.
I did.
Road Rash was like Excite Bike, right?
Road Rash was
like a pepped up version of Excite
Well,
Bike.
there's weapons and stuff.
There's weapons, and you literally attack the police.
Yeah.
Like the police are the bad guys in the game. You're racing races. The races get longer as you get better. You get more powerful bikes, but weapons. You're attacking people with chains and mostly just chains, actually.
See, I would say what constitutes a sports game is the spirit of competition. And I don't know if the spirit of Road Rash is competition.
What else are people road rashing for, if not competition?
That's true. Touche. I say not a sports game.
Now, I don't want to pull rank.
Okay. No, that's fine. We're all equal here.
No, we're not, though. Because once upon
Ty gets editing power. That's true.
Well, he has that. But once upon a time, I worked as the sports editor for a little website called IGN.
Okay. Ooh. Oh, that's true.
Ooh.
So I am a professional video game.
So what is your
journalist.
defense? What is your defense of Road Rash as a sports game then?
Number one, it was released by EA in the early 90s.
Okay.
That's a very strong sports quotient.
That's true. Did they not release any other non-sports games?
To my knowledge, I don't believe they were releasing many non-sports games under the EA banner. I could be wrong, but this was a game that everyone I knew who played sports games also played Road Rash. It was at its heart a racing game. There was violence.
Yeah.
But there was also violence in Mutant League football and Mutant League hockey.
Yeah.
And those games.
Blades of Steel.
I would still consider those games to be
What about
games.
Street Fighter?
Well, it's not a competition towards a specific point, a physical point. In the way that Road Rash
By
is.
today's standards, that might be considered a sports video game.
Yeah, I mean, combat is a sport. I think the line is too far, though, there.
That was before... MMA was, I think, a widely held sport. Like there was Valley Tudo. There was
I would agree.
The early
I would agree with
UFCs.
that.
So yeah,
Is the movie Bloodsport a sports movie?
like the primary focus of Road Rash is racing.
Yeah,
I would put it in the sports realm.
Is that among your favorite racing games?
Oh, it is my favorite racing game.
Okay,
by far.
Okay,
I don't think any other racing games even come close.
Ty,
see, I'm more of a purist, like RC Pro-Am. That might be a little bit before our time sliver.
See,
here.
I'm 100% with the RC Pro-Am life because RC Pro-Am had an advantage over Road Rash in my personal experience, in that it was either RC Pro-Am or Grand Prix. It was produced in it was the same game, but that was in like the local round table pizza where I'd go for after the season, the trophy pizza party kind of thing. And you'd have the full steering wheel and the gas pedal and whatever. And so also, this is totally true, and I'd be lying if I say did not impact me as 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old. It's a girl in a bikini on that arcade cabinet.
Are we talking about the same RC Pro-Am? Because I'm talking about...
RC Pro-Am is the game for like SNES and Nintendo, whatever.
Right.
I'm saying there was like his name was, I don't know his name, it was like Terry Wilson's Grand Prix, but it played the same way as RC Pro-Am. There was a version of it that you're on gravel, and there's a version of it where you're on dirt.
Okay, I got you.
So I got you. The purist in me and the just obsessed 12-year-old.
The simplicity of the RC Pro-Am game for NES to me is what made it. Also, the fact that they had an Easter egg in the yellow car that would lap you seemingly at random.
Yeah.
And always beat you. That frustrating component of the yellow car with the oil slicks that were indomitable in that game.
This is in contrast to the oil slicks in the Prima Pepperoni pizza that
that's right. Absolutely.
That's right.
At Round Table Pizza.
I miss Round Table.
The combination of those two factors it always gave me enough of a challenge that I would come back for more.
May I ask a follow-up as it relates to both I don't know about Road Rash, but as it relates to, I'm not going to say Mario Kart or RC Pro. There's always shortcuts in those games.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You can take a chance and go through the grass. You can take that chance. There's slim openings. Or with Mario Kart, like, well, you can go off the road at this point and fly over this cliff and
Sure.
you're going to land, and that's a shortcut. Was your integrity such in the way that mine was? I was like, no, I'm not taking that chance. I'm just racing as the track wants me to race. I never went for the shortcuts because I'm dumb.
I will go for the shortcuts in Mario Kart, but I don't know that you could in RC Pro-Am.
Yeah,
in the NES version, like, I probably was not smart enough at that point in life to figure out where they were.
There were open rails that you could go through and
See, I'm just learning this now. I might have to find a ROM somewhere and go back and play.
Bill,
it.
did you cut?
I did not cut, but I have a question I think may only further the gap between the haves, in this case, the only children, and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Ty, did you own a Game Genie?
Oh,
I did not own a Game Genie.
Nah, I find that hard to believe, though.
I did not own a Game Genie.
he has Genie written all
I
over.
may have had a game. I owned a Power Glove, but I don't think I had a Game Genie.
Can we review your accessory list, by the way?
I had the Power Glove, which didn't work.
Yeah.
The Power Glove was awful. I considered getting one of those like joy pads that you could have.
No, that's
but
premium.
I didn't like the control of that apparatus. So I steered away from it. I think it was for World Series Baseball, 1993. I looked it up.
Wow.
They had a bat that you could buy that would plug into the Sega Genesis.
I'm telling you, Mr. Macintosh here.
The problem with the bat, though, was that this was before wireless technology.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had a long cord that would inevitably, like, they had a clip that you could clip it to your belt.
Yeah.
And this was like an innovation. Like, oh, you don't have to worry about the cord always got in the way after you were swinging it like a Kurt Schilling fastball. Let's be clear.
Absolutely.
So the bat kind of wore out its welcome, and eventually you would whack it against a cabinet or something, and it was really just one shot. It was dead.
Right.
So I had the bat. I'm trying to think what else I had.
Did you have accessories, Bill?
Not.
I can't think of a single one we had.
I can't think of many. You know, for the PC games, I had a Gravis gamepad.
Yeah, of course.
A joystick.
Just the classic.
The purple buttons.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And you could screw on like the little yellow joysticks to it.
See, he goes a step. Mr. Macintosh over here.
He's sourcing
I told you I was
parts
pumped
from
for the show.
he's sourcing parts from factories to
What did that was
Gravis gamepad.
That was like an S video in. It wasn't USB. Obviously, Gravis predates USB technology.
Yeah, maybe a PS1 in perhaps.
We're talking serial input on some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. The other question that this so the accessories thing is very obvious. There's one accessory that to me was almost deadly for the NES. Do you remember the trackpad?
Of course, but
Track and field pad.
is that a 90s?
Yes.
Really?
So I'm talking about the thing you would lay on the ground.
I had that too.
And that you would step on to play track and field.
Which you would step on with your hands because you would cheat like every single person who had a trackpad.
So I did not cheat, and because I never had the trackpad, but my friend Adam Miller, shout out Adam Miller, I believe he's an ophthalmologist in Dallas. Not dead. Bill just pointed to the sky. He had crippling asthma, and he had to be banned because he was competitive and just like with his feet though. Went for it with track and field.
So kind of on the heels of what you said about taking shortcuts, and now on the heels of our conversation about accessories, I will launch into a brief discussion about maybe my favorite dark horse game during the 90s era, talking about my own accessory that I'm not going to say I invented, but something that I figured out.
I can't believe this.
On NES, did anybody else experiment with a teaspoon?
I do not know what that is.
A teaspoon. Mr. IGN over there, look at me like I got two heads.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You put the NES controller down. You put your index finger and your middle finger on the spoon, and in order to go AB as fast as you can, you take the spoon horizontally back and forth as quickly as you can over the buttons.
Shameful.
Look at this.
See, the thing
that was the ultimate undefeated accessory for NES. Back and forth with a teaspoon over the buttons. And I used that to master a game that I love and will always love. Capcom's Gold Medal Challenge for the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.
Ty, this is
unstoppable,
beyond the pale.
Unstoppable in the track and field events.
Here's the thing. I grew up in the mean streets of Queens.
Right.
This is where I'm playing.
This is doping.
Games.
This is Ben Johnson.
There was no testing back then, Dan.
If I did that, somebody would have punched me in the face while I was working the spoon.
Yeah.
I was playing against a computer.
What neighborhood are we talking about?
Woodside.
Yeah, Woodside doesn't roll like
Main
that.
streets.
Main streets of Woodside.
I used the spoon.
Very pleasant up there.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I cheated.
Yeah. But who are you? You weren't playing against humans.
I wasn't playing against humans. I was playing against a computer. I was trying to break world records. You couldn't do it in the swimming events because if you went too quickly, you would drown.
Do you know what I would picture when I get really good at a game against a computer? Obviously, my head knows that when you play against a computer, you are playing against a literal pre-programmed situation within this cartridge. But when I'd be playing really well, in the back of my head, I'd think to myself, they're taking note of this in Tokyo. They're taking note of what's going on with this console. This is pre-internet, obviously. We're talking 93, whatever. And I was like, they know that somebody has just figured this game out. So I'm just sending a message to Tokyo.
At one point, I definitely sent multiple letters to EA Sports.
Really? Saying what?
I think there was a point where I sent a letter saying, hey, your ratings for these players in NHLPA 90 or NHL 94 are off.
10-year-old Bill Barnwell.
Here are some updated ratings you need to put in there. If you need credentials, this is my record in this season. Because NHL 95 was one of the games, or NHL 94 was one of the games I did have plenty of. They have not yet answered it. But I do think if they reissued NHL 94, I feel like that would at least be sort of accommodated for somehow.
Is this Billy Barnwell sign?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Billy Barnwell.
This is at least one.
Did any of you guys subscribe to Nintendo Power?
No.
Okay. No, I did not because I never had an SNES. I only had the regular NES, and we were very late adopters.
Okay.
So, and it was only really sports games.
I was not a subscriber.
Yeah.
But I'm just, just to do a status check here of the room.
Not Nintendo Power, but as soon as I got super into, and this is not sports, but like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, that era, I was nutballs for Game Pro.
Okay.
I would on the way home from school, other people in the carpool with moms and stuff, they would ask to stop at Taco Bell or to get ice cream or something like that. When my mom was like, can we stop at the newsstand? There's a new Game Pro. And Katana is on the front. Katana. And so that was where I was socially. But I want to go back to Nintendo before we move on to specific sports games.
Okay.
There's three of us in here. Let's see if we can come to a consensus. Would you clip the cartridge on the console to make it work if it wasn't working, or would you blow on the facing side of it?
Pure blower over here.
Pure blower. Ty?
It's a very weird
blower clip.
I went with the blow tactic. If that did not work, a swift hit upon the knee
of the cartridge.
Sure.
Only child, no respect for property.
See, I would push the cartridge in 96% of the way and clip it down on the ledge, and that would work.
No, I went blow tactic and then knee if I was very frustrated.
Wow. So you would blow a knee? Or no knee? Oh, you go
knee for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other sports games that jump out to you? Was there a particular sport that the original Nintendo was particularly strong with? I believe we've hit. Is there anything else football wise?
Well, Tecmo,
Tecmo Super Bowl,
the big discussion that I see a lot.
Yeah.
Is people trying to argue between Tecmo Bowl and Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Tecmo Bowl obviously came out first. There were fewer teams, fewer plays per team.
Yeah.
Tecmo Super Bowl for me was that was 1991.
It's fully licensed.
For sure. Fully licensed. You had more teams. You had 8 plays instead of just 4. That to me was that was the original game that really got me hooked.
And again, I'm going to go back to the RC Pro-Am reference to the lady factor for an 11-year-old Dan. Cheerleader would show a pixel of underwear.
Yeah.
In Tecmo Super
on the
Bowl.
halftime show.
We're getting real creepy.
I'm just telling you, 11-year-old Dan is creepy. This is a safe space.
I don't, number one, no, it's not a
safe
safe
Is it not?
space.
Am
Number
I
two.
It's not as safe as he wants it to be.
No.
These doors locked.
This is an 8-bit cheerleader. This is not a human. You guys.
It was mildly arousing at 11.
Thank you, Todd.
I find this very disconcerting.
I'm so glad you're here.
2 NES games I'll throw out there in different sports. Games, I would say, I don't know if this would be at, like post 1990. Certainly close though. Ice hockey.
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yep. 4 players per team. You can pick the size.
Can I quickly go around the table and ask you what was your preferred size combination for ice hockey?
Please.
I would usually go 1 heavy, 2 medium, and one of the stick figures.
Yeah.
So that's classic. No one will argue with you.
Right. Now if you try to go 2 of the stick figures for speed on the wings, it never would work out.
You'd be too physical against.
Yeah.
Don't know that I agree.
I went 2 and 2. I would avoid the big dudes. I go 2 medium, 2 skinny.
I would go 2 big, 2 skinny.
Okay, skip the mediums altogether.
You know what? Who needs a medium?
You live a life of extremes.
A man of extremes. Yeah.
Man on the edge.
So what I like about ice hockey specifically, it's Mario on the lights went out. Ty, you can turn them back on. What I like specifically about ice hockey, I think Mario was on the cover or something, but he was not a character. It was just skinny, medium, big. What I like is I liked picturing that at some point, some game designer in Tokyo, or wherever the game was made, was probably laying on the ground at like 3 a.m. thinking, how are we going to do, like, we can't use real name. We can't, how are we, like, what if we just use like big, little, small? You're like, fine, let's just do that. Let's just do that.
It works so well.
And it's perfect. It's wonderful.
It's a great player tactic. The other game, another game that involves multiple countries competing against one another, dodgeball.
I never played dodgeball.
Never had.
I'm looking this up so I can see it.
Nintendo dodgeball.
Wow.
What was great about it?
Just great gameplay. A sport that it was a sport that seemed like forbidden fruit when I was a child. Like
true.
The idea of playing dodgeball.
There is international competition. I am seeing a dodgeball, like, I don't know what this is, not a course, but a field or whatever, field of play with the Taj Mahal in the background.
Exactly.
The Taj Mahal is in the background.
Who knew? In India, yeah.
Yes.
And the graphics look pretty identical to the volleyball game.
Yeah. I mean, it was a Nintendo generic game, so basically they just
this is great.
Slightly programmed a few things, and it was dodgeball. Great game, a lot of customization.
Super Spike V-ball,
the teams had very different qualities, so they were very like different teams were really good at some things, different teams were really good at other things. So a lot of replay value. Very underrated game.
Okay,
and a sport. I think unquestionably a sport.
Unquestionably a sport.
Definitely.
Ty, do you have a non-traditional sport, like in the way that dodgeball is? Like, is there a surf game, skating game? Like Skate or Die was great. TNC Surf Company I liked a lot with, I believe, Magilla Gorilla, the surfer. I believe so.
Can confirm.
The game that stands out to me is a traditional sports game, but it was not probably one of the 3 most popular. So baseball obviously did very, very well for the NES. You have RBI Baseball. They made at least 2 or 3 of them. Made at least 3. And Bases Loaded, which I thought was hot trash. Loaded. I thought it was hot trash.
Really? Okay.
I don't like...
Very difficult to pitch in Bases Loaded.
It's the pitcher's perspective. It was difficult to pitch, difficult to hit.
Yeah.
I played Little League Baseball.
Very good game.
Little League Baseball.
Not familiar.
The teams from Asia were excellent.
They still are.
They still are.
Yeah.
I played with the Hawaiian team because I felt like you got a little bit of that Asian influence.
You got the fusion.
The island.
Where you were from with where you, And
it was another game in which the players were differently sized. And so like a larger dude was slower, but he could bash the hell out of the ball.
Yeah, of course.
Great game. I loved Little da, 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 da. Yeah, it was great.
Great game.
Great mechanic. I'm trying to think if there are any other baseball games.
So
we discussed one before we started.
We did, that's true.
Baseball Stars.
Okay.
Did anyone play Baseball Stars?
I never played RBI Baseball or Baseball Stars. I did read a officially authorized book in the RBI Baseball universe.
Okay.
But I did not actually play it.
For me, Baseball Stars was the best baseball game of the era.
I'm looking at pictures of Baseball Stars, and the bats match the uniforms. It's a purple uniform.
So they had. I want to say they had 8 teams. They had a lovely ladies team. They had an American Dreams team, which was like kind of all the Hall of Famers. They had the Ghastly Ghouls. They had a bunch of weird team names, but you could build your own.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was the major selling point. Because let me tell you, in 1991, when my Little League Tigers team went all the way to win the Pee Wee Championship, you better damn well believe I had our whole lineup in there, and I was batting second in the lineup.
What I liked about a lot of these games is maybe only RBI Baseball, maybe Bases Loaded actually had the Major League Baseball license.
That's right.
So I would have given anything to have been in the room to create these fake team names, to create these fake team like player names. So you'd have like, the Wisconsin Jack Seals, that would just be like very strange. And as a result, like you think about it now, it's like it's a bunch of Japanese dudes programming a game thinking like, what would an American baseball team sound like?
Exactly.
And they would do great. I loved it.
I'm trying to find the game. I can't find it right now, but there is a game, and I'm sure one of the listeners will mention it, where they named the players in the game after like all these different weird, incredibly arbitrary groups of people. Like one team is named after jazz musicians.
Really?
Yes. One of them is, like movie stars.
I love that.
But like in hindsight, I knew them. And when I played it, I had no idea whatsoever as to what it was. I can't remember what game it was.
Somebody can chime in on that. But baseball games, I think, is an interesting point of contention because we're going to talk about some other systems here. But I feel like this day and age in the 90s. Now, Baseball Stars came out in 89. All right. And just to reiterate quickly, Tecmo Super Bowl, Baseball Stars for me. I played a lot of Capcom's Gold Medal Challenge in 92. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was 87. For me, that was very much a 90s game because of when I played it.
Sure.
It didn't come out. That was obviously an iconic game we could spend all day talking about.
Right.
The trials and tribulations of King Hippo. Okay.
Yeah.
But baseball games, I don't necessarily think have ever gotten any better than in this era because no matter how realistic they try to make them, they've never once been able to figure out how to master the difficulty level.
Right.
Okay. It's either too slow of pitching and you score 20 runs an inning or too fast of pitching where the ball is coming
Ken
in
Griffey
like
Junior Baseball.
The ball is coming in a millisecond or the slider is dropping off the table and it's impossible to hit. They've never been able to find a happy medium. Not then, not now. So I just assume play a game like Baseball Stars or Base Wars where you're shooting with a cyborg at an opposing robot instead of like MLB 2017.
So we were talking, yes, I think that's right. We were talking about Baseball Simulator 1000.
Yes.
Which is a game that I believe both hitters and pitchers had superpowers.
Not all of them, but
not
a few
all
of them.
Some of them did.
Just some
and
of
you
them,
could you could play with teams that were totally normal and regular. You could play with teams that was like the Mercury Cyclones, stuff like that.
Sure.
Shout out to Iowa State. Go Cyclones. And that was really fun for me. And you would like play on a diamond that was floating in space.
Yes.
It was wonderful. I thought it was a great game.
And I got these two games confused before we were talking. Super Baseball 2020.
Right.
Which had robots, it had women in very revealing clothing, distressingly revealing
robots
clothing.
in revealing clothing.
I think the robots
The future is now.
Yeah,
future is
pretty
now.
distressing clothing.
And they would shoot a baseball out of like an arm, a robot arm.
Right. Like it would be basically unhittable.
Yeah.
To hit those robots. And the robots, if you didn't maintain them with money, they would literally fall apart when they were like running the bases or about to catch a fly ball.
I love this.
Early life lesson.
This was Super Nintendo, I think.
This might have been transitioning to Super Nintendo.
Yes.
Correct.
So for me, I went right from Nintendo to Sega.
Right.
Wow.
You made that move.
I made the move from Nintendo to Sega and then from Sega to PlayStation. I missed the whole Super Nintendo thing.
That's fine. I mean, they released a lot of the same games.
I played a lot of the same games.
Yeah.
I played Mario Kart on friends' Super Nintendos.
Right.
But beyond that, I didn't really have a whole lot of exposure to that universe. But that was kind of like the next generation.
Right. So I think the games that resonated with the most numbers of people were on both Genesis and SNES. So like your NBA Lives, your NBA Jam, your Madden, your NHL. I think Ryan Nanni is coming in here right now. This is a good transition. Ryan, we're talking about Ty went straight from NES to Genesis and sort of skipped over the SNES realm. So that really didn't hurt him because a lot of the major titles were released for both Genesis and SNES.
Sure.
The EA Sports titles.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a big gap of games that you missed. So we'll start with that. So Ryan, did you own a Genesis or SNES?
Have you played sports video games before?
I have played sports video games before. Yeah. The first console my family ever owned was a Nintendo 64.
Okay, but you had friends. who owned these consoles.
For purposes of this conversation, yes. I definitely had friends and they thought I was great.
They thought he was the coolest kid. So the only thing that you missed was that we discovered that Ty, as an only child, was basically Mr. Macintosh, and he had accessories.
So he had $1 million?
He had $1 million.
Not $1 million.
And he kissed an adult woman?
Yeah, well, everybody knows that story about Ty. No, but that Ty was like the super. What was the Fred Savage movie where he had like
The Wizard.
The Wizard.
The Wizard.
Yes.
But Fred Savage was like
character.
the hook into the movie.
Right.
He was not the video game
Right.
specialist.
Right. But
And what's her name from that band and from Troop Beverly Hills is the female lead in it.
Natasha Leone? No.
No, Jenny
Lewis?
Jenny Lewis, yes. Rilo Kiley is the band.
Kiley is the band. Again, very cool.
Very cool. No, we established that Ty had accessories and was like the cool kid.
Sure. I did have a Game Gear. Does that matter?
I had a
Oh,
Game
it
Gear
sure
as well.
does.
Which meant that
Joe Montana Sports Talk Football.
we spent so much money on
batteries.
I was going to say, you put the Energizer family through college. All right, let's start with this. But yeah, we're going to go portable as well.
We should actually, before we go any further, ask Brian the most important question.
Let's catch up.
How would you say the name of the hero in the most prominent Nintendo series of games?
The plumber.
Mario.
Thank you.
I know that you want me to say I know that you want me to say Mario.
We're in
But
New
the
York.
thing is, he admitted to this. He calls Mario's nemesis Wario and not Wario.
I do.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever.
So, okay. So I never owned an SNES, though we did rent SNES, the full console from Blockbuster.
Sure, did that too.
Sure.
Every time we did that, my sister wanted one game and one game only. Paperboy 2.
Paperboy 2.
We
hold on.
played so much damn Paperboy 2.
Sports?
I don't. If only you guys had someone who was qualified to talk about whether something is sports.
Right.
Well, it does have the portion at the end of a level where you have to like go over the ramps.
skills challenge.
Right. That's sports. Everything else, business.
Business, commerce.
Yeah, commerce.
Darren Ravel loved that part of the game.
Making sure you don't get eaten by the dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, we did not have an SNES. We rented a lot of fighting games, actually. Not as heavy into sports when we would rent a lot of Killer Instinct, a lot of Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
A lot of Clay Fighter.
Lot of Clay Fighter, absolutely. But I would go over to friends' houses who would have Genesis and SNES, and the specialty in the sort of 94 to 97 range was 100% EA Sports games.
Of course.
So let's start with NHL 94 because that was already brought up.
Can I start a year earlier?
Please. Oh, go.
With NHLPA 93.
Okay.
Can I start with my favorite story I covered during my time at IGN?
Yeah.
Sure. I think John Boyce has talked about this in an article.
How old were you working for IGN, by the way?
I was 8. This is 1994. I was working in there. No.
By the way, you did miss him tell a story about writing letters to EA Sports complaining about the accuracy of the ratings of NHL players.
You've always been this way.
It checks out. I was 23 when I was working at IGN. It was my first full-time writing job. But I wrote about a guy named Sean Chambers, who was a defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you guys have all played EA Sports video games. You know the rating system. It's going to be usually about 60, we'll say, to 99. Your stars are going to be 99. Your scrubs are going to be 60. For some reason, it's either, I believe it was NHLPA 93. It could be NHL 94, but one of those two. They did not go from 60 to 99. And in fact, Sean Chambers' overall rating was 1.
Oh, no.
So I thought it'd be a good idea to call Sean Chambers and ask him what he thought of being the worst rated player
everybody
in
else
video
in the
game history. There are other guys who were like a 7 or a 10.
Okay.
But this is like his overall rating. So that means to be a 1... in theory, you have to be a 1 at all of the things,
or a 0
or
or
a 0
and a 2.
Yeah,
right. Like he's like, I think John actually wrote with this, like a 19 in aggression, but a 0 in fighting. So it's like he'll work up the urge to fight you, but then he'll get his butt
swing
kicked.
and miss.
Yeah.
That's
he's the Chihuahua. That, actually,
that's awful because basically this was EA Sports saying we have judged you in all ways in the thing that you do for a job, and you fail all of them. It's not just saying you're bad at your job,
right?
Because we can say you can take, insert NFL quarterback here, and you can say these are the 8 things he's bad at, but we can probably find two things that we're like, yeah, he's okay at this. In this case, just bad. Full failure. Ability to skate. 1. Knowledge of how to put on the hockey uniform. 1.
Poor Sean.
Wow.
So you talked to Sean Chambers?
Oh, I called him on the phone.
And what did he say?
He had some exexcuses, as you might expect. He had
So he accepted that
he had a torn ACL or something.
No, he slept with somebody at EA's wife. 100%.
Yeah. That's probably on the table now that I think about it.
So yeah, he is the worst rated player in video game history.
Wow.
I have a list of my favorite games here.
Okay.
NHL 94 is number 3.
Okay.
I just think a phenomenal game, incredible replay value. I loved, and this is something that games have not really even done to this day at this point. Like they would do the cut-ins in between periods to other games that were happening.
Yes.
So cool.
Immersive.
So cool. I felt like I was in that universe.
When that game opened up, if you remember, I forget the name of the gentleman's name, but it was like Ron Barr here for EA Sports.
Oh, it sure was Ron Barr.
It was Ron Barr?
nailed it.
Okay. I may have just seen a screen grab, and it was just like, you not only were playing that game, but you were playing it on EA Sports TV.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
here for, and that was excellent.
Yes.
I loved being in that universe. And they also played like a bunch of copyright available songs in that game. So
Like Camptown races?
yeah, so like you would like score a goal and they'd come back for the face off and it would be like ba-da-dung, da-dung, da-dung,
Right,
da-dung,
right.
da-dung.
That's
I was
right.
like, all right, I'm familiar with
Now
this track.
time for the La Marseillaise.
The best part of that generation of the NHL games, I'm talking 93, 94, 95, 96. I think in NHL 97, they started getting a little bit politically correct
Yeah.
with how they fashioned the game. But you could like kill guys out on the ice.
Oh, yeah.
If they got hit in the head with a puck, they would drop and their head would bleed. Or you could basically run a locomotive right over somebody and they'd be like down there on the ice. Whenever Swingers came out, they made a big deal of making number 99's head bleed. That was Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
And it was one of those NHL games where you could do it. That to me was always the thrill. Now you could of course come up with like the old Mighty Ducks triple deke move and go top corner and beat
Right.
any of the goalies in the game. Or there was a later version where Peter Forsberg had like this weird zigzag move and he could juke a goalie out of his jaw.
So specific.
Okay. But the selling factor for me was always
Was the blood.
the
Yeah.
blood, the guts, the gore.
Yeah.
You know?
Who did you play with? Who was your team?
Actually, I was a Boston Bruins guy.
Okay.
I was a Boston Bruins guy.
Did you play a lot of NHL, Ryan?
No, I grew up in Florida. we don't care about
An interesting story about NHL 94, and this dates now. This is early, like
If you take barbecue tongs to the controller, he admitted to juicing with a teaspoon on a Nintendo controller, going back and forth with
this
one.
is true.
Okay,
this is
so
true. It made me into the man I am today. Anyway, my roommate and I, and Mama H is probably listening to this. A roommate and I, in my sophomore, junior, and senior years of college during finals week, we would blow off as much time as we needed to. It was our tradition. 3 years running, we would play on a ROM version for his PC a full season.
Oh no.
This like
From
places you in college in such a specific time.
I mean,
in
you're
history.
finding out about the kind of person.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We would go
Dan,
from
let me tell you about LimeWire.
start to finish.
So
Play a full season, not a
Yeah.
short one, full season in totality from start to finish
during
through the playoffs.
finals week.
During finals week.
yeah.
And we would choose
It's
not
so
to
weird that
study.
you're not a doctor.
Not to study until we got done with
And
the
this is
season.
between orgies. This is between
Clearly.
sexual escapades.
Clearly.
Yeah. Okay. I loved NHL 94, but I was not great at NHL 94. I was fine. You know, a lot of people talk about the glitch where you can't stop the wraparound goal in NHL 94. The thing that stood out to me, well, there's a couple things. One, the puck, and I understand why because you're looking at the screen, was the size of a record.
Oh, of course.
It was a very large puck. And number two, that siren was piercing.
Yeah.
And there was nothing worse. You know, you give up a home run in a baseball game, you give up a home run. You give up a touchdown, it's a long game. You give up a goal, and not only do you give up a goal, but you get a woo Everybody's like, alert, we have a bad gamer right here.
That's
Alert.
also, that's also so mom can know that you're playing video games instead of doing your homework.
That's true.
Right.
It's a very bad alert. So no, I liked it. I played with the Canucks. A lot of Trevor Linden, a lot of Pavel Bure.
I grew up as a Capitals fan. A lot of Capitals for me in NHL 94. The PC version of this game was incredible for 1993. Like had like ridiculous save abilities. Like you could download files for it. I remember very distinctly having to go to Babbage's to buy
I have not heard that word.
to buy a 2 megabyte memory card for the computer. Whoa. That cost like $300. All the money I had saved to play it. And
And as Bill walked out, Dave Babbage himself said, "This business will never go under. I'll be rich forever."
Wow. And somewhere Mike GameStop just looked at him and said,
Yeah.
"You fool.
I'll show you."
Listen, Sean CompUSA, calm down."
And then Samuel Goody would be like, you all are going to rue the day.
And any
Please,
other
Ty.
hot hockey talks while we're on? Maybe we'll just go
No.
sport to sport here.
I got all kinds of stuff. I could do hockey for the entire time.
What else do you have hockey-wise, Bill?
Hockey League Simulator,
Don't know. What? Tell me.
PC game,
Deep cut.
very solid.
Deep cut.
I'm a big fan of those nerdy.
Was this a licensed game?
I don't remember it being a license, but I think you could download some
So
stuff.
is this like
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
a GM running
Oh, you
a
know me.
program?
You know that's what I would do.
Yeah.
For sure. And again,
Bill setting concession prices.
that's what I want to do with my
Yeah.
life.
Sim GM. Yeah.
My last foray into the whole hockey universe was
Okay.
NHL Hits.
I don't know.
Yes.
Was that
which
like
is-
the Blitz version
Yeah.
of
Yes.
hockey?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was a
yeah.
good multiplayer game, NHL
Okay.
Hits. But that was like college again.
Was there a Z?
There was a Z.
Okay,
yeah,
just making sure.
Was a Z. You got to keep it consistent and on
Absolutely.
brand.
Yeah, within the Blitz universe.
Yes.
Any other hockey stuff we need to get to? I think that's it for hockey.
I think we should
Yeah.
go to football because most of the time we're a football show.
That's fine.
We could probably talk till we're blue in the face about the 90s generation of football.
Yeah.
It progressed in leaps and bounds from Bill Walsh college football back in 1993 through NCAA 1999.
Yep.
Both for Genesis and PC. It obviously evolved to a PlayStation, and now, you know, whatever we're up to these days.
Can I start in 91 real quick beforehand?
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
about the Joe Montana football
Oh
glitch?
boy, no!
Oh,
The glitch?
right.
I don't know about the
well,
glitch.
not glitch, but a cheat. There's
How
a
could I
cheat in
forget?
Joe Montana football.
Yep.
Really?
You can go for a punt and not punt it and run a fake punt, and fake punts are unstoppable. The computer does not know how to program a defense, so you just snap it to the punter and the entire defense runs backwards and you just run
And that's how
forwards.
Tom Tupa becomes MVP.
This is
Exactly right.
This is how the Rams have an offense.
Yeah, this is the Sean Landetta glitch. Yeah.
Are you talking about Joe Montana? Is this Joe Montana football or Joe Montana sports talk football?
I'm not sure.
Are they different things?
I don't know. I'm looking at Joe Montana football for the Genesis, Master System, and MS-DOS.
This is also reflective of how poorly these games were named.
yes.
Yes.
What is
Joe
Joe
Montana Sports Talk Foot. Like, what?
Well, I think this was the first game that had a play-by-play guy,
Right.
which was Pat Summerall, who had maybe 14 things to say over the course of an entire football game.
Rest in peace.
Yes.
Pat
with your
Summerall's
friend.
commentary through the Madden series in the 90s was a thing to behold.
Oh yeah.
Bonyo, flag on the play. I mean, there are iconic phrases that
There's a man down.
man down. Yeah.
So okay, this is probably not the right thing to say of somebody who has passed.
I don't
But
like
do you
where this is
remember?
going.
You like where it's going?
No,
Or
I don't.
No, I loved Pat Summerall. I have nothing but just undying respect
Bill's
for Pat
employers,
Summerall.
turn the podcast off now.
Yeah, turn the podcast off now. No, you remember when Roger Ebert tragically lost his voice?
Did you just call him Roger?
You did.
Did I call him Roger?
Roger Ebert?
Roger Ebert he had like throat cancer and lost his voice box.
Yeah.
But they were able with using all of his old
the
television
synthesizer,
appearances
yeah.
to like reproduce his voice.
Could audio John Wayne him.
Right, exactly. So he could communicate and it would sound like him to his wife and loved ones, which was like an incredible story technologically, whatever. I would have loved if this technology existed in a much lesser form and doctors had to go to Pat Summerall and be like, okay, so we think we can reproduce your voice using the video game, but you're only going to be able to say very certain things. Right. And so he has to have very serious conversations with his NES and SNES voice. That would have been just the best for me personally.
God, that's dark.
Isn't that super dark?
God, that's dark.
So he goes to a restaurant and he orders a hamburger.
Yeah, right.
And there's no ketchup on the side, and so he has to call over the waitress and says, "There's a man down."
Flag on the flag.
She's like, what? A man who? I don't understand.
Who is Bonial?
Where the waitress says, we normally cook our burgers medium. Is that okay? And he has to respond with, no. No. No good. I'm an evil person, and I apologize to the Summerall estate. It's no good. Yeah. So that's all I have. Pat Summerall was a master of broadcasting both in real life and in video games.
Were you more of a college football guy? This is a dumb question to be asking. This
no, I was all NFL, video game wise,
same.
Until the late 90s when I had a copy of NCAA 98, 99 for the PC. But just in terms of man hours, I was all NFL.
I was transfixed by the football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Literally the football graphic, the graphic of the ball.
Yeah.
That
like
was
6 rectangles.
It was like a 600 by 300 image that was in the upper left or upper right, depending on who had possession.
Sure.
And I remember looking at that in 1993, and for whatever reason being transfixed by, it looks so real.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so real. I gotta get this game.
Yeah.
That was what it took.
The chyrons are amazing.
I'm serious. Like this is 12-year-old Ty.
Yeah.
The football is what sold me on Bill Walsh College football.
Okay. I
And
believe
the
it.
gameplay, and I had all the games. But
Okay, you had all the games.
Yeah.
For Super Nintendo, beyond Madden, I don't remember playing much.
Yeah.
Madden was the move. I was not very good at it until the late 90s when we got a PS1.
So no like Tecmo, no like
Not the Super Tecmo Bowl
Yeah,
for
yeah,
SNES.
yeah.
No, not really. I played it probably a couple times.
Right.
The only like non-Madden 90s game, and I played a lot of this with Alex, my little brother, was we got a PS1 in the late 90s and we played a crap ton of NFL Game Day.
Sure. Very solid
A
game.
ton. And I loved playing with the Jags because Fred Taylor was incredible.
That's right. You were a Jaguars fan you
No,
decided
middle
to,
brother Max was a Jaguars fan.
right.
But loved the Jags.
Your family has so many connections to the Jaguars.
It's very strange, but I loved playing with the Jags.
Well, his dad's Mark Brunell. He doesn't
So
do
that
that.
is true.
That's right.
No, not a lot of people
his
know
knee
that.
healed by God.
We lost all of our money. Please help us.
But you grew an elaborate mustache. So.
Yes. No, everything's good now. But yeah, it was Game Day was the only non-Madden, but everything else was Pat Summerall.
Let me
and John Madden.
let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
In the early Madden games, of course, if there was an injury, you guys know what would come onto the
Of
cart.
course.
The cart would come in. Yeah.
How much time?
Running over. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. How much time were you willing to invest to try and cause an injury to see the ambulance come onto the field and run over players? 'Cause I would say on a daily basis, at least a half hour of my life was devoted.
Oh, yeah.
For months on end. Just
How
can I
many
get someone to run these
years of
people
your
over?
life collectively do you think you spent playing video games?
Oh my God. This is a depressing question.
Yeah,
and
I don't.
refuse
This
to answer it.
hurts me.
Yeah, are we including like games I can play in the background on my computer while I'm doing other
I'm
things?
talking console games.
Console games.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Oh boy.
I mean, it's got to be at least like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good year for sure.
Just in man
Could have
hours
spent that
alone.
year in Spain.
Yeah. Going to museums,
Shit.
enriching your mind. Did you, Ty? I want to ask Ty first because he's the one with the most to lose. Were you a controller breaker?
Oh, yeah.
With alone or with others or both? Because it's weird to do it alone almost. I get it with other people. Like,
Dan, I broke a controller this year on a PS4. I'm not
30,
kidding.
What are you, 35 years old?
I broke a controller this year.
Why?
That shit's
Playing
expensive.
what?
What was the context?
FIFA.
With anybody there in person?
No.
How did you break it?
It was a Hulk smash right into the carpet, hardwood floor.
So you spiked it.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Ty.
I spiked it the way I spiked my phone when Brady Quinn lost to BYU opening season like 2005.
Brady Quinn's terrible at FIFA. You shouldn't have been using it.
Yeah, he is very bad.
Yeah,
You can't count on
I'm a
him.
controller breaker.
What caused you to spike your controller in FIFA?
Just sheer rage. Yeah, sheer
But were you
rage.
playing the computer?
I can't get past world class difficulty level. If I try to bump it up to legendary, the computer starts doing weird things. So
Luke Zimmerman, you are not.
no, I'm not.
He has this like very steely look right now.
I know this week.
You know, I'm not kidding about
He's
this.
like, you know,
I don't doubt it.
I killed a drifter once, and
Yeah.
I will tell you the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. That's so I would say, just getting back to the 90s and not Ty's modern adult rage. I would say 90s wise, I spent the most of the time, if we were going to add up man hours, it was NBA games. It was NBA Jam and NBA Live. Those two series
Are you finishing up football?
Is there anything to add? Please.
I played an unlicensed. Okay, so are you familiar with the King's Quest line of games?
Yes. Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Made by a little company called Sierra Online.
That's right.
They had a football game.
Front Page Sports,
Front Page
Football
Sports.
Pro, which I would not have my career if it were not for that game.
He mentioned that earlier. Yeah.
Shit!
Yeah.
I definitely played that on our home PC with a joystick.
So, what is the difference between Front Page Sports beyond not licensing player names and team names? What's the big difference?
It's
The
pretty,
lights went out again.
It's
Yeah.
pretty poorly made, I would say.
Yeah.
Not great.
You could quickly learn. You're like, okay, there are like 4 plays you can run. There are a lot of plays you can run, but there are 4. You're like, this will either be an 18-yard loss or a touchdown, and you just sort of like run the numbers, and you're just like, well, let's just run those. Let's just do that.
Right.
It was because it wasn't licensed. It was hellaciously customizable. So I was just like, me and all my middle school friends, we're a team now. That's right.
How'd you guys do?
Like playoffs, but not win anything.
Okay, that's respectable.
Yeah.
I have 2 Front Page Sports Football Pro things I remember. 3 things. I got the game originally because I made money working a wedding as an altar boy.
Hell
That
yeah.
Earned me
Whoa.
the $40 to
You
pay
got
for the game.
paid to be an altar boy?
I got tipped.
That's how that works
get
for you
tipped.
guys?
You get tipped.
Yeah, altar boys get tipped to do events.
At what point in the night? do you tip?
They're not sticking around for the reception.
I don't know. Look at me.
No, you're not inviting.
I'm not even a good Jew.
You're not inviting the altar boy to be like, hey, man, it's open bar. What are you,
Right.
10?
Okay, so people are tipping you on the way out and you're making some cash.
Bought the game that way. Fantastic game to me. I created a league. I played a lot of leagues online.
Mm-hmm.
I created a league that was a Big 12 league.
Okay.
In like 1997.
Wow.
It's like I have a lot of knowledge of like the 1997 Colorado Buffaloes that I should not have, like Phil Savoy being the best receiver in America for some reason. And then I played in a league online. I won 1 championship my entire time playing. And it was a league where you could see, like you could watch the game tape from the previous week. You could load up that game on your own computer if you had like certain files for it. And you could see what the plays were running. You could see like what their playbook was.
You were watching tape.
I was watching tape.
That's right.
Legitimately.
Wow.
You know who he defeated in the championship game? Chris Berman. That's right.
I was in the ESPN league. And I realized that this guy who I was playing against like had installed like some custom punt play that was incredibly susceptible to fake punts. So in the championship game, I just ran a fake punt every single time and beat him like 71-3. And he was furious
Bill.
at me. Like it was like troll, like cursing me out in an AOL chat room for hours on end because I wasn't playing up to the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I showed him.
So this is 97-ish?
So there was 95 and 96 were the 2 really great ones. 97 was kind of a little bit worse. And then 98.
Right.
98 was so bad that they had to recall it, and that killed the series.
I was doing like 95. I want.
Okay. So I just like in both of your cases, the fact that AOL really comes into existence in 94, 95. People are just like movie times and like, oh my God, I'm talking to somebody from Germany.
Sure.
Or
That's just the online host. The person's not from Germany.
I don't know that. Again, I am 12 years
Hello,
old.
German movie times, please.
What's going on at the Munich Regal?
Welcome to Der Movie Phone.
Yeah. I just like that this whole universe has opened up, and you're like, I'm running fake punts against the Kansas State Wildcats.
But look what I do now.
That's true. It was a baseline that you probably could not have foreseen.
Unlike the rest of us, Bill can look back at his whole childhood and be like, it was all for a reason.
It worked.
Yeah.
It was all tax write-off in hindsight.
All right.
Yeah.
Basketball.
Yes.
Go on basketball, because I'm looking at my list here. NBA Jam was
it's brilliant.
A transformational
Tournament
series.
edition or standard?
Both.
Okay.
Both were great. The fact that
Tournament edition was better.
I agree.
I thought.
and then of course you had Hang Time because there was a split between Acclaim and Midway.
Yeah, not about that.
Right.
Just
no, NBA
OG.
Jam pure.
Yeah.
The fact that they couldn't get all the best players made it even better.
Yes.
You got a better appreciation for your Detlef Schrempfs.
Right.
That's right. That's
Your
right.
Luke
Your
Longley's.
Scott Skiles.
What was your team?
I would play with the Sonics a lot, actually.
Okay.
Just because Peyton Kemp complemented each other really well, or the Jazz, because you had the Stockton Malone, but if you wanted to get real shooty, you could bring in Hornets.
I was more of a Charlotte Hornets guy with Grandmama Larry Johnson.
Oh, it's great. It's a great call. And Muggsy was real fun because he's tiny, whatever.
Pacers.
You went Pacers?
Yeah, I felt really bad for the Mavericks because they were the first team you played in the arcade game. So I played as Alvin Harper and Mike Azzolino.
Oh, wow.
Boy.
And I did not win a lot of games.
No, it's okay, but you were loyal. I can appreciate that.
Here's the thing. I mean, football advanced a great deal from Nintendo to Sega.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any greater advance in any of these sports games than from double dribble
Yeah.
in the old NES days where you're like shooting up half court shots and the clock is running 1,000,000 miles an hour to NBA Jam
Right.
in the mid 90s or early 90s, I guess in this case. And NBA Live 95. If you're looking for more of a realistic variety of your basketball game, that to me represented the greatest delta from A to B.
So it's interesting you say that because the smartest thing NBA Jam did, the hardest thing I think that all basketball video games have is getting the shooting right.
Yes.
It is the thing that looks weirdest, that feels sloppiest. And NBA Jam was like, what if we completely remove any incentive to shoot, to shoot jumpers?
Yeah.
You just want to jam. So the shooting looks like ass in
Right.
NBA Jam,
Yeah.
and nobody cared about it
Not at all.
whatsoever.
And I like the fact that if you're playing NBA Live, if you want to be good at NBA Live, you got to get good at entry passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to move it around.
You got to figure out how to
defense.
call those damn plays.
Right, yeah.
And NBA Jam was like, what if we just jacked it and dunked it?
Yeah.
What if we
Sure.
just jacked it and dunked it?
Sure.
And the fact that NBA Jam was like, let's put the Beastie Boys in it.
Yeah.
Let's put the designers. I still know if I were on Jeopardy tonight and the final Jeopardy question was like, this NBA Jam designer put his own image into the game as a playable character, I'd be like, that's Mark Turmel.
Mark Turmel. My second favorite piece at IGN was I interviewed Mark Turmel about NBA
Was he
Jam.
cool?
He was super cool.
I like that. I like hearing
So
that.
good.
But like, yeah, you could play as Raiden from Mortal Kombat. You know, there was,
You could play as the president of the
Play
United
as Bill
States.
Clinton.
Right. That's right.
Yep.
and I don't even know if I knew the names of the Beastie Boys before NBA Jam.
Well, that's on you.
That is on me.
on you.
But the fact that NBA Jam was like, yeah,
There's
there's
a window to this. That's true.
there's MCA, there's Mike D, whatever.
Yep.
That
You're,
was cool.
you're saying like you don't remember the name of the third person from the Beastie Boys.
Right, I know, Adam Yauch, whatever. But I'm
That's
forever grateful.
That's
Was that-
MCA, Dan.
Okay, I'm a bad person. I get it. I'm not cool. But NBA Jam was terrific.
Wonderful.
NBA Jam for me is like probably
It was fun in the arcade.
one or two if I'm ranking
Yeah.
from that era.
No, I think it's the number one 90s sports video game,
Yeah.
even more so than Tecmo Super Bowl, which is great, just because it was the first true video game that happened to be about sports. It had that like spirit.
I feel like the bellwether for a good 90s sports video game, one that had like a lasting influence,
Yeah.
is would you still play it in like 1998 when the graphics had evolved by leaps and bounds?
Yeah.
For sure.
And the undeniable answer for that NBA Jam series is yes.
Well, the other interesting thing, we're talking about ratings earlier, because you usually only had like 3 players on a team that you could choose between. NBA Jam, and because they didn't have all the stars, they had to make some choices and say, okay, we know this guy is not actually a 7 at 3-point shooting, but you only get to choose 3, and we can't have one of them be total garbage. So yeah, Popeye Jones, guess what? You can hit 3 threes now. Congratulations.
No, it was wonderful.
Yeah, Alonzo Mourning had stunning 3-point ability.
Right. All these guys who
game.
it was a rising tide that lifted all boats.
And the thing that also was great about NBA Jam, it was zoomed in a little bit more. It was the horizontal look. So NBA Live had that weird like diagonal camera angle.
Yeah.
And so it's the engine was completely off. Like guys would shoot jumpers from the free throw line, but they were also suddenly like long jumping 38 feet in the process, where everything just seemed a little bit off.
Track and field game that they remade.
Exactly. Like they used a weird track. So, but yes, I loved NBA Live. I think it probably peaked with 95. I never cared about any of the like Blazers versus Bulls or like Jordan versus Bird, whatever. I didn't care about any of those like one-on-one games. That's not.
You didn't play Jordan versus Blazers, which was just him beating 5 different Blazers.
I watched it.
That was a much more fun game.
Yeah,
and then he goes to their houses and just takes all their stuff.
Jordan versus
and then he gets
Bird
chased by a dog.
Was it okay?
Jordan versus Bird was okay.
Okay,
I was okay with that game, but it couldn't hold a candle to any of the NBA Jam.
No, of course.
Type of game.
Any other games from like the Genesis SNES era?
I liked NBA Live 96, which was the game that had like the ESPN2 lowercase font.
Oh, yeah.
Which informed the logo for my podcast, the Bill Barnwell Show. But it was like weirdly specific. Like it had edit a player mode where if you edit in like the information for like the guys who weren't in the game, especially Michael Jordan, they would like the game would realize it and like give him like 99 ratings across the board.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I can unlock this. This is incredible.
So this is when EA Sports figured out that they could have the backdoor into like putting in player unlicensed.
Exactly.
Let's bilk Sam Keller out of money.
Unlicensed territory definitely sounds like a movie that would have been on USA Up All Night.
Steven Seagal would have been the star.
And he was a detective who was not necessarily playing by the sexual rules.
Oh wow. Not comfortable.
Okay.
So we're just talking about basketball games, or are we talking just Genesis in general?
Genesis SNES, obviously the big SNES game, again, didn't have it, was around it a lot, was Ken Griffey Jr. baseball. I don't know if it had a specific name, but that
I don't think I ever played it.
You never played it? It was the super weird pitching and swinging timing. I remember that, and like the stances were very strange, but it was a fun game. Didn't play much of it.
Controversial, I'm sure, but Baseball Stars to me is still a better game.
Okay.
A better game than Ken Griffey. People swore by Ken Griffey Jr.
Make your choices.
I'm looking at other popular games. You have Wave Race 64. Excuse me, that's Nintendo 64, obviously.
Come on.
Mega Man Soccer.
No. Well, okay. Can we, I don't know, maybe you all have talked about this. When we're talking about sports games, are we talking about these are sports games that exist in our physical universe? Or like when we get down, is Mario Kart a sports game?
I think because it's a racing game.
We've already posed this question at great length. Would you say Road Rash is a sports game?
Yes. Because that's what we play at PE in Florida.
That counts then. There it is. It's been decided.
So some other games for me.
Yeah, SNES Genesis era.
Again, more of a Genesis guy here. I was big on the Olympic games.
Oh, wow.
I was huge because they were non-standard. You know, like I didn't have the spoon trick.
No.
With Lilyhammer 94.
They're all terrible to play.
Yeah.
They all, none of them lend themselves to video game
They felt
play.
very rushed.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about an Olympic game that was awful is that there were only a few events that were fun.
None of them are. Here's why none of them are fun. All these other games we're talking about, basketball, football, hockey, baseball to some extent, they all have like freedom of motion. You play within a court or a field, but like almost every Olympic event, it's like go from here to here, and maybe you have to do something in between. Like maybe you have to vault, or maybe you have to like flip or whatever, or you have to swim, you have to jump over something, but it's just straight line, and that's the most boring thing you can do in a video game.
But think of the games that we play on the phone now.
Yeah,
they're all swipe games. They're not any harder.
Those are free.
Well, some of them are
free.
Some of them are.
Can you imagine walking into like an 11-year-old Ty's living room and seeing Ty just like fist pump doing the luge?
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ty's eyes just widen.
The luge was my favorite.
Just picturing him.
The luge was my favorite.
Wow, I'm ice dancing. Go away.
You couldn't. There was no freedom of motion. You know,
of course
so it was all like ski jump, speed skating, short track speed skating.
I'm
speed skating this game. Biathlon, a lot of fun.
I'm just picturing him like holding down a Bulgarian in Greco-Roman wrestling for 20 minutes.
No wrestling.
Almost got him.
I do want to say that.
Lilyhammer
The
94.
800 medley. Go away, Mom.
Lilyhammer 94 was a quality game.
Jesus.
And the other one that I'll throw in there, I don't know if it's sports or not. These guys are laughing at me. This is fine.
These are the sports games your mom buys for you because she's like, well, it's the Olympics. And
Let me tell you a story.
1994.
And Mama H will back me up on this, but Capcom's Gold Medal Challenge, which I discussed in our NES portion before you got here, I physically called Toys R Us for about a month straight because this is before the days of the internet and being connected to know when things actually came in. I called that poor sap of a manager every day for a month until the game came in.
You know,
I demanded a hold on.
You know, they had it for like 3 weeks, and we're just like, we're just gonna.
Didn't want to take any chances, Bill. Did not want to take any chances.
I was saying like they got it for 3 weeks. Like, we're just gonna keep telling this kid no. There's no way.
Back order. Massive rush.
The other one that I'll throw in here, and maybe this is not a
Cup challenge yet?
yeah, that's how it sounded. The other one that I'll throw in here, WWF Royal Rumble.
Oh, see, I was waiting for the wrestling portion of this conversation.
Well, this should be spoken of.
Great game, Royal Rumble '93.
So we have. I'll get to a game later on. My favorite game of all time. My favorite game of this era of the '90s. But
okay,
I will say up there as well. WWF WrestleFest for the arcade. Which had a Royal Rumble mode and also had a tag team mode. You would play as you try and beat the Road Warriors, were the main people. And I'm reminded of it because I have a story from my IGN days.
Okay.
In the break room at IGN, there was this like massive arcade machine that had maybe 600 different games on it that you could, kind of cycle through and play. And I was playing WrestleFest many days, but this one day in the break room. And I was told by my manager, hey, get back to your desk. I'm like, wow, what's up? Like, who cares? Everyone plays video games.
Yeah.
He's like, Rupert Murdoch's coming into the office. And Rupert Murdoch had just bought IGN a few months earlier.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, well, got back to my desk, and they circulated very quickly a memo saying, don't take pictures, don't make eye contact with Mr. Murdoch, don't basically just act like he is not there. So this very old man starts shuffling through the IGN offices. Apparently he was shown the website and said, what's that? This website he paid $850 million for a few months earlier. And then he, with our CEO, he played a game of Wii Tennis. I would have paid $1,000 to be the person playing that game of Wii Tennis with Rupert Murdoch, but alas.
I just want to say it's kind of screwed up. The break room at IGN had an arcade machine. That's like working at the air hockey table factory. And like, at the break room we have air hockey.
It's true. You guys should have at least had a Pop-A-Shot. Something physical.
No.
Not so much.
No.
Nope.
We're
You
getting
are
to
a
the-
non-physical office.
We're going to get to the Virtua Tennis
Oh, good.
yeah.
portion
Well,
of
you
the
know
show
what?
quickly.
Another game of this era for SNES, now that we're talking about just not the mainstream sports, Super Tennis was pretty good.
I don't know if I ever played it.
Super Tennis was pretty good. It was, everybody wore white. It was just like a very
That's just
staid
Wimbledon,
game.
Dan.
That's just
Yeah.
I
Just
know
Wimbledon
it is.
all the
But
time.
it was pretty
Unlicensed
decent.
Wimbledon?
Pretty much. Yeah. And it would be like this
And of
guy
course, you,
from,
the Sampras fan, is like, this is the purest form.
this is as tennis was meant to be played.
Clay is for cowards.
Yeah. But it was totally good, and I would play it again.
Anything else from SNES, from Sega?
No, we covered wrestling. Oh, well, I mean, the thing we didn't actually cover for NES was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which is an all-timer. And I played Super Punch-Out as well.
Right?
Did that come out in 90?
Came out in 1987.
Okay, so that came out in 87. So then there was Super Punch-Out for the SNES, which was also wonderful.
Quality game.
Yeah.
Quality. We could probably do an hour podcast on Punch-Out.
And we've named somebody in our office Little Mac. Not after
you go.
him, but it's good to have a Little Mac back in our lives.
His love of ordering kid-sized mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Next era.
Dreamcast. What?
Dreamcast was...
Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Sega CD.
PlayStation. Sega CD. Let's just kind of group them all together.
Yeah.
Since we're at the hour mark here.
Night Trap is not a sports game, guys.
Crazy Taxi is. Crazy Taxi is a sports game.
I
That's
wanna
why
know-
the Offspring are in it.
One thing before we deep dive this. If anybody were to own this, it probably would have been you, given your history now of owning everything. Did you own a Neo Geo?
I did
you
not own.
like
No, I did not.
foreign
A
consoles?
Jaguar.
No. I did not.
Okay, just making sure.
No.
Okay, so you went N64 in this era?
I went PlayStation.
Oh, you went PlayStation 1. We had a PlayStation 1
I
as well.
was N64.
I was on 64 as well.
Okay, so that's where the line is drawn. So Sony enters into the fray. We played a ton of Game Day, and then that transferred into Madden. I don't know beyond that how much like we didn't really do racing. I did a little Need for Speed stuff, but nothing major on the PlayStation.
It was all Blitz.
A lot of Blitz.
Yeah,
too.
it had to be Blitz. Yeah.
Ton of Blitz.
Blitz was 1999.
Okay, so the very end.
Right under the wire.
It spilled over very nicely into the whole college era. Apparently, I'm the oldest guy in the room, so for me,
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It spilled over quite nicely into the whole college era. But the three for me that jump out: NFL Blitz for PlayStation 99, like an all timer. That's like number 3 on my list here.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Okay.
Sure.
Was, how many have they made of those, by the way?
12. I just made that number.
It's like,
I don't know.
It's put all his kids through college at this point. And Tiger Woods 99.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're not a golf
No, I like Tiger
aficionado.
Woods. No, Tiger Woods real fun.
But the golf video games, I mean, I could go back into like PGA 94.
PGA Tour 95 are also excellent
for
games.
Sega was like 94, PGA Tour 94. I seem to remember reading a review that it was like the best video game about
really
golf
good.
of all time. But Tiger Woods 99 for me was like, that was a huge time sink.
I have my number 1 golf video game of the 90s, and there's no way any of you will ever
hold
guess.
on, everybody, people like pull over.
Pull over. Yeah, stop
get
the
off
mower.
the treadmill right now. This is the.
I just remembered it. That's why I spoke.
Swallow your
dramatically.
food.
You ready for this?
Put your baby down.
Sega published this in 1994
Stop doing surgery.
for the Game Gear. Fred Couples Golf.
Oh my God!
wow.
The big that is dead on the table.
Wow.
Woo!
No, Fred Couples Golf was
You're
great.
the oldest man in the world.
It was really fun.
He is the oldest. Ty's the oldest man in the room. You're the oldest man in the world.
I'll take it. That's the nicest thing you've ever said.
Wow.
Okay, so 99 Tiger Woods Golf.
But you're not going to back up your Fred Couples Golf 94?
It was great. You could put all sorts of spin on the ball, a lot of club selection early on.
These are literally just basic.
I know.
Okay.
But they did a great job of showing it all off.
But by the way, golf, to my earlier point about they've never figured out how to make baseball games that are realistic through the difficulty levels. Golf is kind of in that mold as well.
Is it?
Like
Yeah.
PGA Tour 94, they could make reasonably hard to the point where you didn't outplay it if you got used to it. But since then, through PlayStation, now we're up to PS4, they've never figured out a way to make those games realistically hard in a way that you can keep playing them without getting bored.
But there is a reason why that is. Like you can't go and easily play like high quality basketball.
No,
necessarily.
I understand the reason.
Right.
I understand the reason. All they can do in the golf games is make the courses longer or the wind stronger.
Well, it was also just like if you have $28 and a Muni nearby, you can go be bad at golf.
Yeah.
You can live that life. You don't need it in the video game.
Right. You don't need that. That's your time for greatness.
Right. Exactly.
Fair enough.
It's wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. So Dreamcast,
Virtua
N64.
Can we talk about Virtua Tennis?
While we're
Virtua
talking
Tennis.
country club sports, Virtua Tennis was a perfect game.
That game, I would put that game probably in my top 5.
It was.
And I didn't even own a Dreamcast, but I played it on a friend's. And
Here's the secret: nobody actually owned a Dreamcast.
I did, you son of a bitch.
I don't believe no one.
I think it's still at my parents' house.
So between the Dreamcast and Ty buying Lillehammer 94, we have 2 purchases that left somebody at a Toys R Us saying, somebody actually bought one. It's been sitting there for 8.5 months.
Interesting.
We didn't even have to put it in the pile of cheap video
that
games.
basket where you're just like,
I stand by my purchase.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, but Virtua Tennis was one. They had real names. I don't
Yes.
even know how they got real names because there's no
Courier.
governing.
Yeah.
Jim
Haas.
Courier. So I went back and watched some gameplay. Yeah. Tommy Haas was in that game.
Yeah.
I went back and watched some gameplay, and it is better than I thought gameplay wise, and so much better menu wise. First of all, they're playing like this driving metal.
Oh,
and like,
yeah.
You select a player, and there's like lightning that comes down, and you're selecting Thomas Engqvist. You're like, I've selected Magnus Norman.
Who was the Brit in the game?
Tim Henman?
Tim Henman. Wow! Tim Henman enters the battlefield.
Yeah. Virtua Tennis was great. It was just a simple meter when you served.
Right.
And then the great thing about the mechanics in Virtua Tennis was they only basically designed it so there was a volley motion and a full ground stroke motion.
Right.
But if you were, 6 feet from the net.
And an overhead motion.
And overhead. Yeah. But if you were 6 feet from the net and the ball bounced, the guys would all out swing, but you would only hit it like 4 feet.
Right.
It made no sense. There were small heads and huge bodies. It was great.
You had the dives.
Yes,
Great
everybody
dives
was
in virtual
diving.
tennis.
Very, very smooth gameplay.
Yeah. Oh,
too.
it was
very,
great.
very smooth.
I mean, if you and a buddy hopped on,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
you could rally for hours.
I could never master the lob shot though.
It's tough.
Could never master the lob
But
shot.
only
in that
cowards
game.
lob, so it doesn't matter.
There was also, if you could somehow master like the combination of going like cross court.
you
your line to the-
got to move them around. Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
you,
No,
you could win relatively easily.
So I've got a tennis brain, so I was good at wrong footing people. I was good at that.
Can I admit something?
Please.
I've spent most of the show just thinking of situations where Pat Summerall would have to rely on Pat Summerall.
How great is that?
It's not good.
Like I'm just picturing Pat Summerall just standing at a corner, minding his own business. Person walks by and like, "Oh, sir, are you okay? Or do you need any help?" And he just looks at her and says, "The bus."
I was gonna say
he only has 8 options like in Tecmo Super Bowl.
Oh God. Pat Summerall goes to the theater. His wife says, Pat, what'd you think? And he says, "Great play." Great play.
I hate you. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's all I want out of
What
life.
was the I think it was a 2K game for Dreamcast that had the whole feature where you could pick the play on your controller and not on the screen. Randy Moss.
Yes.
This is a Randy Moss featured game, as I recall.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Wow.
This was Marshall Football in '98. Just a football game that just had Marshall and nobody else.
Marshall. Good. I'm looking right now. By the way, I totally had forgotten about this game. So in talking about hits, it was NHL hits.
Yeah.
There was also 2-on-2 open ice. And that was from the NBA Jam.
I played
people.
that in the arcade.
Yeah. So I don't. Oh, it was released for PlayStation and Windows, but yes, that existed as well. And I had.
I was playing a lot of games on Windows 98 back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The old NCAA games on
Did you
Windows
ever-
98.
did
The
any of
option
you-
was deadly.
Did you play triple play baseball?
I did.
A little.
I played it on the computer, and it was what's his name? The Toronto. It's like a former Toronto manager was one of the
Buck.
Yes,
Buck
Williams?
Showalter.
No.
Buck Williams.
Yeah.
Buck Martinez.
Buck Martinez is
Buck
what it was.
Martinez, yeah.
And they had a bunch of fake ads in that game. And
Yeah.
it was, I mean, to a 14-year-old.
It was like, in hindsight,
Danny
it was like
Rubenstein.
everything was a minor league game.
Yeah, it was like the 4th inning is brought to you by Merle's Lobster and Tires. It was
That's
like,
right.
it was.
What I
got some
liked
use out
about
of
the
it.
triple play,
Tires suck.
what I
Yeah,
liked
they're
about
not
the
good.
triple play series
Lobster's
is they did a good job of mitigating like the issues you used to have with throwing in some of the older games.
Yes.
Like you could hit up and it would go to second base.
Right.
Which made the game a little bit more enjoyable and it was easier to turn a double play. But I was just sort of ambivalent on that game. Like baseball games, I've got
It's
a
tough
love-hate
to sit
thing
down.
with. I like Baseball Stars in the early 90s. I like Clutch Hitter in the arcade.
Yeah.
I had a run with High Heat in 2006.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention 2 baseball games.
Oh, please.
And one of them was High Heat, which I
High
believe was
Heat.
on the 3DO.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also on PC. You can look it up on YouTube. A commercial involving Sammy Sosa, which if I did an impression of, I'd be fired for being too racist.
So
Yeah.
you will do it now.
No, I will
Please,
not.
there it
I will
is.
not do it. If I
These
know
are
a job.
very good microphones. They will pick up the intricacies.
Yes, an extremely exaggerated caricature of Sammy Sosa advertising for High Heat Baseball with, I want to say, Don Baylor as his manager. I enjoyed the Hardball series of games. I don't know if you guys
Okay.
played that. It was PC. I think it was ported to maybe Genesis, maybe PlayStation. It was extremely customizable, but like it somehow got worse with each iteration. Like it was like Hardball 3 was like, wow, this is really good. Hardball 4 was like basically unplayable and crashed constantly. Like, how did you guys put this out exactly? So a weird sort of development cycle for that game. But Hardball 3, phenomenal game.
Really good.
Very customizable. Like you could edit the logos down to the pixel. It was that good.
Wow.
I think I only had one baseball game ever.
Which was? It doesn't even register.
Yeah. It was around the time Tampa got an expansion baseball team, and I was like, this is how I will try.
95,
And I
96,
was like,
yeah.
Quentin McCracken, let's see how, you're not good. All right, I'm out.
Did either one of you, Bill, Ryan, break a controller?
No.
Lose your temper?
No, I would just punch my brother more so than break a controller. That's what
Didn't have a brother. Had to break the controller.
I was confident that if I did that, my parents would be like, well, guess that one's done.
Yeah, that's true.
Good for you, idiot.
Yep. Okay.
But I have told you about my friend in college who, during a heated Mario Kart tournament, threw a controller through like the half wall, separating the kitchen from the living room. It punctured the half wall, hit a water pipe, and flooded the apartment.
Yes.
So one Mario Kart game caused probably $8,000 worth of damage.
Nice.
I'll go a step further.
Here we go.
Did anyone here around the table? You're really enjoying this game. Did anyone here around the table ever attempt the engineering feat of taking apart the controller to figure out what was wrong with it and then fail at putting it back together?
No, absolutely not.
No, especially because like it's hard to remember now because if you have a PlayStation or an Xbox or something, that controller has some like weight to it. Have you? When's the last time you picked up a Nintendo 64 controller?
It's been months.
It feels
if not
like
years.
it should be full of Smarties. It feels so light and so cheap and so bullshit that if it was broken, I'd just be like, well, it clearly has one part.
Yeah.
If you ever tried to disassemble one of those controllers, it was a feat of miraculous proportion to try and put it back together.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Because there were so many little parts that weren't screwed in that would just kind of explode the
Right.
second you took out the screws. It was never advised. I tried it twice. And in many ways, it was worse than actually breaking a controller
I'm sure.
out of a fit of rage. Because most of the time, you were just kind of curious, like, oh, I can fix this. I can make this better.
Yeah. I can get the nerds that I ate out of this.
Is it any wonder I'm an IT guy? I mean,
Right.
Did any of you ever play in a video game tournament?
no.
No.
You did not. Did you ever? So I played in. Oh, there go the lights again.
God, this is awesome. I love it.
I played in I think it was a Tecmo Super Bowl tournament at like a baseball card store. It was very informal. It was like 8 or 12.
No, you didn't have to wear a tux.
I did not. Strangely enough, I did.
But you felt out of place.
I felt out of place.
God damn it! I thought this was a tournament.
No, I played in a Tecmo Super Bowl because all I had experience doing was beating up on my stupid little brother. Sure. So I thought I was great. And beating up on the computer, beating up on my brother.
Right.
And I get to this tournament and I got run.
You got worked.
I got worked. I like didn't even I had normally played with like the 49ers, Joe Montana, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I was in a phase where I was like, I want to play with the Bears. They've got a really good defense, and like Jim Harbaugh can't really throw, but Neil Anderson's a decent enough running back, whatever. And I was like, in my Bears phase, I lost.
God, the Bears have always been the Bears.
They were
haven't they?
so bad. I lost like 56-10, and like the 10 was just such mercy garbage.
Yeah.
I got worked. Like I was just like going through my regular plays, and he just stopped them all. And I was just, what? Who is this?
Is Madden Bowl still a thing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Tecmo Super Bowl tournament every year in Madison.
No, but I'm talking about Madden Bowl.
Yeah,
which is the thing where NFL players.
Yeah.
They played at the
Is that
Super
still
Bowl.
a thing?
You said it's like you're not sending Charlotte Wilder there next year.
We went. They did that in Arizona a couple years ago.
They do it every year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still true, but there was like a good 5-year stretch where whoever won Madden Bowl was somebody who you're like, yeah, that is a guy that I can tell does not really care about his NFL career.
Yeah.
He is very good at
He's
this.
excellent.
And it's all coming together. Like, Jacquez Green, why didn't you pin out? Oh, I get it.
Was he specifically very good at Madden?
Oh, Jacquez Green, I'm pretty sure,
I'm sure
won
it was-
at least 2 Madden Bowls.
Jacquez Green versus Rydell Anthony.
Yes.
In the finals year after year.
Go Gators.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Any other games from the 90s?
Yes. I want to mention my favorite game
Here we go.
of the 90s. It's an N64 game. It is called WCW NWO Revenge.
Wow.
Okay.
It is an incredible wrestling game.
Why? What separates that game? Because all wrestling games, and this is my own ignorance, they all sort of seem the same. You're throwing a bunch of guys in the ring. I know I'm wrong.
That's like saying all fighting games are the same.
Right, you're right. And I know I'm wrong because I never actually gave them enough of a chance. But what separates a great, great wrestling game?
So in an era where literally the Acclaim games were wrestlers who were having like hearts fly out of them every time they got hit because they wanted to have a Mortal Kombat-esque game but couldn't use blood. This was a game that was ported over from Japan. It had a very nuanced mechanic for grappling, for winning the grapple, getting moves. Like the advancement was so significant where it was like, okay, we have wrestlers who have one or two moves each. The like Revenge had, and it started with WCW NWO World Tour, and this was the follow up to that. Like wrestlers had 25 moves each, and they all were like customized for that exact person. It wasn't like you just had like a generic power bomb. You had like Kevin Nash's power bomb or Chris Jericho's power bomb.
Who did you prefer to play as?
Who did I prefer to play as? Great.
Do you want me to go through all the characters?
I mean, it's not that I don't know the characters. It's that I'm literally trying to think.
Emotionally torn.
Yeah. There was A.K.I. Man, who was this a THQ Aki game. So it was, of course, he had incredible moves. Was this guy in a suit? I preferred to play as Chris Jericho. Ultimo Dragon was high on my list.
Chris Benoit had a kneel down double underhook power bomb in this game.
I wasn't going to mention Chris Benoit.
I know. In this game, I'm just listing names now.
Yeah.
I want to say you pronounce some of these names, so I'm super excited.
I'm not going to be good. We have Bret Hart, of course, the Hitman.
Of course.
Bill Goldberg, Go Dogs, right?
Yeah.
Goldberg played for Georgia.
Georgia and a Jew.
Yeah. Hey, double. The Harlem, or not just Harlem Heat.
Sure. Stevie Ray and Booker T.
British Bulldog.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Jim Neidhart.
Still with us.
Conan. How would you pronounce K-O-N-N-A-N?
This could be the entire show.
Keep going. I'm enjoying this. I'm very much enjoying this.
Kurt Hennig.
R.I.P. Mr. Perfect.
Okay. Brian Adams. I assume the Canadian crooner.
Yep.
Chris Jericho, obviously. Finlay. Okay. Well, it's written as Lay.
Sure.
That's all I have right here now. But it says and many more.
Oh, there's like 50 more guys. I wanted to see you go through all 50.
Sting is in this game, apparently.
Also
you said Sting like you weren't sure how to pronounce Sting, my dude.
Yeah. Sting only fights Brian Adams.
But he can only be playable with the use of a Game Shark.
Yes. And there's also an incredible 90-second intro where Sting stops Hulk Hogan in a truck for some reason. Such a good game. That yielded WWF WrestleMania 2000. No Mercy, which is an incredible game. Just a 5 or 6 year run of the best wrestling games before or since.
A good wrestling game, though, you had to be able to do the moves.
Of course.
Yeah.
You had to be able to do the moves. I mean, it sounds...
You can't button mash.
Yeah, it sounds simple to say, but some of the earlier games...
You got Scott Norton, Buff Bagwell, as we all know.
The earlier games, you had to be like... some kind of savant to remember the combination to do some of these maneuvers.
Or just a young Bill Barnwell.
Right.
Remembered everything. That's all he had patience and time for.
What was there was some sort of boxing game. I don't know if it's 90s or not. It might be just after.
Right.
That did not feature real boxers. It was like kind of cartoony. And you had, there was definitely a buffer in it as an announcer. And you had like comically large boxing gloves and swings.
I'm looking at the
Ready
list.
to Rumble?
Yes.
Ready
That's
to Rumble.
The game I'm
Yes.
thinking of. Yeah.
That was a good game. I
Didn't
like that
say
game.
boxing as it turned out.
No.
Did not indeed.
Unfortunate.
No, that was...
Bill, anything left on your list that brings you great video game passion?
Anything left on my list? I'm looking through. I don't see a ton.
I'm out.
Ryan, any
Crazy
games?
Taxi.
Crazy Taxi.
Not a sports game.
Strong disagree.
Yeah,
I think would Cruisin' USA be a sports game?
No.
Daytona USA would.
Daytona USA would be. Did it? This is not a 90s game.
Yeah.
But I want to ask Bill Barnwell on the spot. Did you ever own or play NFL head coach? The short-lived Madden
Bill
spin-off.
Cowher on the cover?
Yes, there were
Yeah.
two.
There
I think
were
Tony
two.
Dungy's on the other one. The short-lived Madden spin-off where you only call plays.
I while working at IGN, interviewed Tony Dungy about the head coach experience, and then interviewed Adam Schefter about it because he's in the game as well.
Awesome.
And my future colleague, very nice guy, someone I'm very happy to call a friend at this point. Interviewed Adam Schefter and asked him. It was like the year of the Darren McFadden draft.
That sounds
so. I'm like, do you think Darren McFadden's going to be a good pro? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, why are you asking me for? I don't care.
I wish head coach had been so successful they'd been like, well, shit, let's do NFL Chain Gang, a whole Madden game where you just move the chains.
I wish I just usurped Madden so it was the more popular one.
I have NFL audio guy. Just stand here and hold.
Point it.
The big dish.
Point the dish. Yeah, NFL truck, where you're in the production truck. Like, guy got hurt. You got to play the sad theme.
Switch.
There's a man down.
And NFL Summerall, where you're just doing commentary on the game. Is Pat Summerall
struggling to communicate with the outside world because of this horrible curse Dan put
Push
on
up
you.
and B.
I stand by the humor in that.
That's a good way to close this out.
It's a good way.
All right. We've been going for, gosh, it's been like an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I
it's
live
worth
here.
it.
I live here now.
Yeah.
Bill Barnwell, thank you again for gracing us with your presence. And this will probably be another hit, I'm
Smash.
sure.
Listen to the Bill Barnwell show. Where can people find the Bill Barnwell show?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Wish I knew.
Babbages.
Babbages.
Yeah, you have to. So there is the Bill Barnwell show case, and then there's the Babbage's case behind it.
Yeah. If
You got to make sure the one's behind it. If you want
Yeah,
it.
I would say to look in your Tiger Direct catalog.
That's right. That's right.
You can find that anywhere you
Some of the older
download.
episodes are shareware now.
Yes.
Real Player, I believe, has been robust in its offerings of the show. You can, if you've been doing your work and do your reading, the Scholastic catalog has a number of back episodes.
That's right. That's right.
You will have to solve the copy protection for it, though.
Yeah.
So you'll have
We
to.
were talking about copy protection. Physical copy protection was the greatest damn thing in the world.
Like, read word 13 from the fourth paragraph on page 12 of this manual. Like,
Like, how many people are selling Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego? Good Lord.
All right, so just Google the Bill Barnwell show, and you'll
It's
probably find
available at a weekly reader near you.
it. Yeah.
yes.
The Bill Barnwell Show. Ryan Nanni, what do you do?
I don't even know anymore. It doesn't matter.
So you can listen to Shutdown Fullcast.
Yes,
And that's
please.
very good and funny, and it's on sbnation.com, and you should listen to it. Anything else, Ryan? Do you want to plug anything else?
No, not a
Got a cute daughter.
Thanks.
Bill's. You have Diet Cola.
I have a dog.
You do have a dog. How's Maggie? Is Maggie good?
It's her 1 year anniversary the day after we record this.
Wow.
She's going to be getting treats.
Proud
Big
Papa.
time.
All right. That's
Okay.
all I got. I got nothing to
That's all
plug.
I got,
Treat
too.
your pup.
We're good.
All right. Well, thank you, gang, for doing this show. If you like it or if you have any comments that you'd like to submit, we're at solidverbal@gmail.com.
Or Pat Summerall situations.
Or Pat Summerall
That's
situations.
what we're looking for.
Solidverbal@gmail.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Please follow us. For that guy over there, Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildenbrandt. We will catch you all in a week. Stay solid.
Peace.